The margins in football are so small. And I think today that's on full effect in both the Liverpool and the Arsenal game. Two games with massive implications on the title race. Liverpool, as of late, have been a little streaky. They've dropped points here and there. Arsenal desperately trying to claw back the deficit, to pick up points, take advantage of Liverpool's slip-ups. And today felt like a game. Arsenal playing at home against the Villa team who have been inconsistent. Liverpool going to Brentford, the best side form-wise at home in the entire Premier League. You felt this could be the makings of a seismic day of change when it came to the Premier League title race. And yet, like I said, the margins between success and failure, the margins between glory and just falling short, the margins in between Arsenal bringing down the deficit to what would have been 4 points. Instead, it's 6. It could have been 3. I mean, it's just crazy, man. Where do we want to get started with this? Let's start with the earlier game that happened today. Let's briefly talk about that. Liverpool traveling to Brentford, who, as I said, form-wise are the best side in the entire Premier League when it comes to playing at home. They are incredibly difficult to beat at the GTEC Stadium. And Liverpool were very, very good. I think they were. Look, they weren't perfect. They still had some problems. Brentford actually played, I thought, a really good game. Honestly, I'm not going to say they dominated Liverpool here, but they had opportunities. They threatened Liverpool. They kept them out for a long time. There were a few moments where they had Van Dijk having to be a little uncomfortable in terms of stretching last gasp. Konate, Alisson making some big saves. Brentford put up a spirited display today. But I think Liverpool really fixed up from the last few weeks where they have dropped points to Forest. They have dropped points to United. They lost to Spurs in the first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final. They knew this was a game they could not slip up, especially with Arsenal probably watching this game, eagerly anticipating to see what would happen and hoping they could take advantage of it. And Van Dijk and Konate, I want to highlight those two. Van Dijk, I just think, has been incredible all season long. And I think the last few weeks in particular, when Konate has been out and then Konate's come back even and he's looked a little shaky the last few games. Trent has kind of, for me, fell into some bad habits defensively of late. Robertson is having a really difficult year. Tsimikas he's there, he's okay. I feel like Van Dijk has just been kind of holding this entire group defensively by the back of their shirt. He's holding them up I got you guys. And it's so funny seeing Van Dijk this season, especially again the last few weeks. Every time he comes up with a huge clearance or he stops a one-on-one almost all by himself or he wins a duel and it just cuts to him immediately and he's looking at Trent or he even looks like Konate sometimes it's yo, you guys want to do your jobs. So he's been incredible. Van Dijk is just Rolls Royce, man. But Konate today, this was a return to the Konate that we knew. He came up with some massive blocks, was so strong in his duels, and that's a tough front two to play against in the form of Mbeumo and Wissa. They have been so effective for Brentford in Ivan Toney's absence. Everyone saw Ivan Toney go to Saudi this year and thought, how are Brentford going to cope with losing their talisman, with losing their big center forward? They haven't missed a beat. They haven't skipped a beat because Mbeumo and Wissa they've started where he left off and they've carried the burden. I actually think they've made Brentford a better team, even footballing wise, than they were under Ivan Toney. So that's never an easy place to go to. And Van Dijk and Konate definitely had their work cut out. But I think today Liverpool had 34 shots. 34 shots, which I think is the most, I believe, since 2006 against Everton, they might have said. It's been a long time since Liverpool peppered a team like they did today. But the finishing boots weren't on today. Diaz, I like Luis Diaz. I think this was more of the Luis Diaz that we've seen from the last 2 seasons where his shooting boots aren't on. He is frustrating and he had one chance in particular, open in the box that finds him. He even probably has the chance to chest it down, control it, take his time with it. He tries heading it. It goes off his shoulder. It goes out. And it's one of those days where nothing is going his way. And it probably hints towards the fact that Liverpool do need going forward after this season, a bona fide center forward, a real guy up front that you could rely on game in, game out, because they've experimented with Diaz up there. He's done a decent job this year. You've looked at Jota, Núñez comes in and out of the team, but maybe they need someone a bit more prestige in that position. Gakpo wasn't at his very best today. Salah had another game where things just weren't sticking. I mean, again, Salah will always have games where he's putting chances on a plate. He's still getting goal-scoring opportunities. Salah is a threat every single time he steps on a pitch. But for the standards that he set in the first half of the season, not the best from Salah. And I honestly think it's been a poor 4 games from him. For his standards, for the level that he's kind of hit this year, this has been a drop-off. And the issue with Liverpool, and I said that on SDS recently, it's not taking a shot at Salah. Salah's brilliant. Salah's been the best player in the league this year. Some would argue the best player in the world. But Liverpool are a team that are highly dependent on him when it comes to goals. And it's kind of crazy to say that, right? Because they have so many top attackers in the forms of Diaz, Núñez, Gakpo, Salah, Jota, Chiesa even. Yeah, it hasn't played that much, but that's a big attacker right there. You would expect them to have way more goals shared across that front six than really just Salah being the one who's carrying the brunt of that responsibility. And you get the impression at times of Liverpool that if Salah isn't coming up with a moment, boy, you're in trouble, because Diaz is too inconsistent. Gakpo has his days off. Núñez, you never know what version of him you're going to get. Jota is injury prone. Chiesa has barely featured. It is really heavy on the shoulders of Salah in terms of the responsibility he bears for this Liverpool team. And it's not a coincidence for me, in my opinion, that over the last 4 games, he's struggled, and therefore so have the team. But this is where I talk about margins, because creeping up to the 90th minute, you're starting to think, wow, a 4th game where Liverpool are going to drop a result, a 4th game where Liverpool aren't looking at their exhilarating best. Like, is what Arsenal fans have kind of been murmuring in the shadows a little bit starting to come to fruition? Could Liverpool be falling off? Could Arsenal take advantage of this later on? That's what I was thinking, to be honest. I was like, oh, is Arsenal going to look at this, get a result against Villa, and all of a sudden we got a real title race on our hands? But cometh the hour, cometh the man. And cometh the hour, cometh the man manager as well too. Arne Slot, again, goes to the bench and again finds a solution. The other day, it was Tsimikas and Jota. Today, Harvey Elliott and Darwin Núñez. Those two changed the game for Liverpool. I'm of the belief that Harvey Elliott has been underutilized by Arne Slot this year. I understand he missed a lot of the early stages of the season through injury. He wasn't fit. But I think since he's come back, I think he's been done a little dirty by the manager. And it's tough because Liverpool, they were in winning form. You don't really change a winning team too often, especially the midfield. When McAllister's playing the way he is, when Gravenberch is playing the way he is, Szoboszlai has really come into good form. I thought Szoboszlai was really, really good today. But Elliott is a talented player, man. And he brings something, in my opinion, a little bit different to the rest of them in terms of his eye for a pass, his eye for a progressive pass. He has a little bit of guile about him as well, too. And he plays this wonderful pass to Trent that I'm not sure many of Liverpool players would actually play, just because maybe they don't have the creativity that a Harvey Elliott really possesses. And outside of the foot, he almost just guides it in behind for Trent to run into. Trent, he doesn't make great contact with the first. It kind of ricochets back to him, finds Núñez, and Núñez, right, who is a man on the outside looking in. And as late as this last week, we've had rumors that Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia want to take him off Liverpool's hands. He's kind of lost the faith of the fan base, maybe lost the faith of Slot before this game. It doesn't look like he's a player that's in Liverpool's long-term plans. But you can't win a league title with only 11 players. Fact. 11 players don't win you a league title. A squad wins you a league title. And you need contributions throughout 38 games from every player in your squad. This year, Kelleher has given huge contributions coming in for Alisson. Tsimikas, huge contributions. Joe Gomez, huge contributions. Connor Bradley, huge contributions. Curtis Jones at one point in the season, contributing. The attack speaks for itself. Today's day is about Harvey Elliott and Darwin Núñez. I think those two changed the game for Liverpool. And then for the second goal as well too, Harvey Elliott finds Darwin Núñez. Darwin Núñez completes the win, completes the victory, grabs his second. And all of a sudden, the guy who was basically not public enemy number one, right? Because Liverpool have been in good form, but I think most of the fan base, if you had asked them before this game, if you polled the fan base, they probably would have said, yeah, at the end of the season, we got to move on from Núñez. That's a moment right there that shows his quality and shows that as crazy as Núñez is, right? Even after this, he almost gets a red card. Like, it's just a moment of madness. And as maddening as he is at times, he has this quality as well, too, where if it all kind of comes together with Núñez, which has always been the thing with him, right? And I think it's why Liverpool fans have always kind of held off fully going in on him, because you know there's some quality there. It just isn't frequent enough. But today's that day that the quality shows, man. And it's a huge 3 points for Liverpool Football Club. Massive. Gets their season back on track. Gets the title charge back on the rails. And I'm sure, like Arsenal fans or Arsenal players, I'm sure if you ask them, they'll say, no, we had full attention on our game. I don't buy it. I'm sure Arsenal players were watching that game, gaining happiness, gaining confidence from the fact that Liverpool were being stifled, thinking, wow, this is a result that we can watch. Liverpool drop points. Let's just take care of business, and we're back in business. And I'm sure seeing Darwin Núñez put daggers in the souls of not just Brentford fans, but also Arsenal fans must have been extremely deflating, man, because that seemed as good as done in terms of Liverpool dropping points again today. But Darwin Núñez and I think Harvey Elliott have saved the day for him. And that's the margins, man. That's the margins. Maybe on a different day, he doesn't bring on Harvey Elliott. Maybe he brings on somebody else, and that result never happens. Brilliant management from Slot. a brilliant performance. I think Liverpool played really, really well today, despite it being 0-0 for most of it. I think Brentford deserve big credit because they defended very well. They kept Liverpool honest in the back as well too. But Liverpool, real resilience. They never stopped fighting. They never stopped attacking. And they get their just reward, man. And then we go on to the Arsenal game right after. And wow, this is what I'm talking about, guys. This is what I'm talking about. I've said it for the last few weeks. And people in my comments keep saying, oh, don't backtrack now. Don't say we might be in it when you said it was over. And the reason I think the title race is over, and the reason why I've said this the last 3 weeks, isn't because I don't think this Liverpool team are capable of slipping up, which is what Arsenal fans have said numerous times. I agree. I don't think this Liverpool team is a vintage Premier League winning side. They're a good Premier League winning side. I think they're the best team in the league. But it's not, for example, like City of the last few years or that Liverpool team in 1920 or even 1819. I think there's been better Liverpool teams that didn't win the league than this one. So I agree. This isn't a Liverpool team that'll win 20 in a row or they're going to hit 95 points. I agree with you. But does it matter if there's not a team able to capitalize? No, that's the reality here. No. So as you can say whatever you want about Liverpool, and I'm not going to call you crazy for thinking that, but who's the real competitor here? Who's the serious team that's going to capitalize on Liverpool, that's going to keep them honest, that's going to breathe down their neck? Because it sure as hell is an Arsenal. Today, it is just wow. Wow, man. Like, this game was in their hands. It was won. It was all, the 3 points were all but in their back pocket. The game was finished. Aston Villa looked dead and buried. 2-0 up. Arsenal were cruising. They were cruising, man. The stadium was bouncing. Havertz is scoring. Martinelli is scoring. Arteta's smiling. Lewis Skelly's balling. Trossard put in a winger masterclass today. It was a perfect, let's say, 65, 70 minutes from Arsenal. They were home and dry, man. And the way they've capitulated today, the way they've dropped the ball today, I think the aftermath is devastating. I think the result of this game is devastating for their hopes this year, man. Because as much as I don't really believe in them, as I've always said, all you can do is just win your games and hope they slip up on the other end. But if they're winning their games and you're dropping points in this manner, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. There's no title arriving at the Emirates this year, man. It's not happening. You cannot drop a 2-0 lead like that. And I understand 2-0, they say, is the most dangerous result in the game. It's the most dangerous score in the game because the next goal basically kills the game off, right? You concede one, your team, the opposition really starts gaining confidence. Your heads drop, and the next goal after that, if you're up 2-0 and you score a third, game over. So I get it's a dangerous scoreline. But playing at home against an Aston Villa who have been out of sorts really all year. They started really well, went through a really bad patch. They're picking it up a little bit recently. It's not the Villa of last season, but wow, give credit to Emery, who every time he plays Arsenal, it's like he has a chip on his shoulder. He's out for revenge. Give credit to Watkins, who every time he plays Arsenal, boyhood Arsenal fan, but you'd think he grew up a Spurs fan, the way he dunks it on you guys every game. Give credit to Kamara, who I thought was fantastic. I thought Kamara and Yuri Tielemans, those two I thought were very, very good. Tielemans grabs a goal, almost grabbed the second as well, 2 seconds after. And Kamara, I just thought that was a brilliant showing from a defensive midfielder right there. Really, really top performance. Digne, I thought, did a really good job of changing the game. And I maintain all of this. Villa, they did well to stay in the game, to keep their heads up and equalize the way they did. But this is a capitulation from Arsenal, man. It's a capitulation. And once they kind of threw away that 2-goal lead, it was crazy to watch the whole stadium almost just silenced. And Arsenal's intensity, which they were intense this game. They played a very good 60 minutes. They were the best team on the park for 60 minutes. Even though Watkins, you know what? He actually had a few chances here and there. Maybe last season, Watkins buries a few more than the one he scored today. But I thought Arsenal were comfortable this game. But the minute that second one went in, for me, that's what I call a dagger. Because it just killed the mood. It killed the vibe. You could hear a pin drop in there. All of a sudden, everyone's uncomfortable. All of a sudden, heads drop. All of a sudden, the fans are groaning at misplaced passes. And it just sums up the season for Arsenal. Now, I've been very critical of the few months, to be honest. Of all season, I've been critical of Arsenal, the way they're approaching games. I've been critical of their attackers' woes in front of goal. I've been critical of the business they did in the summer. But one thing I haven't been critical of, and I'm very sympathetic for Arsenal, actually, is the injuries that they suffered today. Or this season in general. They've had a very bad injury season. The only one I feel no sympathy for is Saka. And it's not because of Saka, because I love that kid. Brilliant player, and I wish him all the best. But that was a ticking time bomb. We all knew eventually they are running this kid into the ground. So I feel no sympathy for Arsenal in that regard. But the rest of the players that have gone down this season is ridiculous. The injury list that has piled up at Arsenal this year it's impossible to plan for, right? Saliba misses today. Big miss, man. Timber has to play center back. Partey's playing right back because Ben White is out for a long time. Odegaard missed 2 months earlier in the season. Calafiori has gone under the radar in terms of how disappointing his fitness and how available he can be has been. That's a massive disappointment, Calafiori, because he was supposed to be a big part of this team, and he has been effectively a no-show. He's never there. Tomiyasu, they got to cut their losses with that guy. Massive injury problems with him too. So I feel for Arsenal in that regard because that's a lot of injuries to deal with. Partey plays right back because there's an injury. Timber plays center back today because there's an injury. Lewis Skelly is a byproduct of the injuries, and he's been a brilliant byproduct because he has been a revelation in that position. But he's only playing because people got injured. That's the reality here. The front line, Saka's not playing, but those are big injuries to suffer. And I feel for them because the goals they concede today, Partey is in no man's land, right? I think to give him credit, right? If I'm thinking the way he's thinking, he's probably trying to step forward to catch Watkins offside. But you got to be in line with the rest of your defense, man. You can't push up without being fully certain the rest of your team is pushing up as well too, and you have to stay in line with them because you might think what you're doing is great, but all of a sudden, Watkins is chilling at the back post. That's a criminal goal to concede. Yuri Tielemans basically bypassing Marino, who's his marker, and winning a header to make it 2-1. That's criminal. Tielemans is a top player. For me, he's a magician. Not with his head. Tielemans is not an aerial threat like that. They're sloppy goals to concede, man. In a game where I thought Arsenal were just so in control. Trossard, I think the last 2 games has really stepped his game up because I think he's had a poor season, to be honest with you. But today, this was a vintage winger performance. He was taking on his men, putting in brilliant balls into the box. Martinelli grabs a big goal, even though I thought after that goal he did absolutely nothing. Havertz even grabs a goal. This game was there to be won. It was in your hands. All you needed to do was tie the bow up. The present is done. And you have thrown it away. And at the end, there's a huge moment where Havertz thinks he's grabbed the winner. The stadium just becomes alive again. And on second glance, VAR almost immediately cancels it out. Now, it caused a lot of controversy on Twitter because Arsenal fans immediately jumped saying, oh, this angle, it looked like it hit his waist or it hit his chest. I'm sorry, right? I felt like I was being gaslit for a second. That very clearly slapped his hand. Someone said, oh, it just brushes his hand. Am I bugging? Like I've been streaming EAFC on my Twitch late night the last few nights. Check me out on Twitch. But I know I look fatigued right now. I know I'm not getting enough sleep, but I'm awake enough to see that hit his hand, man. And it killed me seeing Havertz in the VAR era try and run off and celebrate like it didn't. Come on, brother. We're all gonna see the replay in 2 seconds, man. Just, you know what? It killed me, bro. But it was a moment where it really felt, Arsenal might find their way back in, but instantly you just knew, nah, this can never count, man. So it's a bad slip up from Arsenal in a game really where I thought they were very, very good for most of it. And through errors of their own, they have just capitulated and probably given Liverpool such a big advantage in this, man. Again, I bring up the margins. If Núñez doesn't come on and score those goals, if the ball instead hits Havertz in the chest or in the stomach and goes in instead of his hand, we're talking about the title race in a totally different way, man. And unfortunately, I think it's just another nail in the coffin, man. The coffin isn't fully shut. There's still a little like crevice where you can breathe a little. Every game like this is just another nail, just shutting it further and further down, man. That's a tough one for Arsenal fans to stomach today, man, because you keep the hope. You think, okay, just hopefully Liverpool draw points. Hopefully we can just do our bit of the bargain, but these are games you have to win, man, and it's a real howler, man. So big up to Liverpool because I think it's another step closer to their objective. And Arsenal fans, let me know how you feel, man. How gut-wrenching a draw is that? It feels like a loss, honestly, if you're an Arsenal fan, but how gut-wrenching a draw is that one? Is the title race over? Does anybody still have any hope? Let me know in the comment section down below. Like, share, subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow for the Man United game, and I'll see you next time. Peace.